And so there are certain things, about being a Black woman that I didn't necessarily have to explain to my therapist or my doctor, and I really appreciated that. And so at the end, or towards the middle of like seeking therapy, I was offered to start taking antidepressants, which was something in the beginning that I was really ashamed of and anti. So I am very much one of those people that comes from the background of, pray about it, affirm it, it'll get better. And so it was a struggle for me to admit that I needed that level of help. But it is also something that if you ask me today, if I ever went through something like that again, if I ever started to struggle again, I would not hesitate to get back on my antidepressants. And so I can honestly say that therapy and having a doctor, a psychiatrist, saved my life. So for us graduate students and us professional students, or those who are looking to go into that, these are some resources that most universities have. So they have mental health services, which is what I use to see a psychiatrist. So my doctor is actually through the Wayne State program called CAPS. But my therapist is not. I use her through my personal health insurance, again, because it was very important for me to go see a practitioner who looked like me. And so I couldn't find one of those at CAPS. So I found one through my personal health insurance. I have a best friend in the world who pays out of pocket. She wanted to find someone through Maven Clinic. There are also other resources. If you have questions, I can answer those. But basically, she pays out of pocket like $15 for 30 minutes, and she sees her therapist that way, and they FaceTime on the phone. So there are lots of different resources that you can use to talk to somebody and to get help. And I wouldn't wait. That's not something like I would say is the fifth step. I would say that's the first step. So there's also this concept of work-life balance. So for me, what that means is like balancing med school, being a mom, being a wife, being a business owner. And honestly, it's a myth. Like, it is a lie. That balance does not exist. And so I had to make peace with that. And I had to figure out how to make peace with that. And it started with asking for help. So I literally could not get better until I started to lean on to other people. So my sister-in-law, my mother-in-law have been godsends. They pick up my son twice a week. And that is so that my husband, who's a second-year law student, and myself can study late, so we can stay wherever we are. We can do what we need to do. Sometimes that just means going to Kroger and like having time to do that. But it's been essential to have that piece of our village. And it's been a huge source of help. We also, my husband and I have a schedule. So I am a morning person. I can get up at 4 a.m., drink some coffee, and get rolling. He could literally still be up at 4 a.m. when I wake up and still be productive, which makes no sense to me. It blows my mind. And so he agreed to take the late shift. So what that means is he studies late into the night. And what that means is I get out of the house early. So he drops the kid off, I pick the kid up, and we work on it that way. But with this, I will say that like time management and discipline are extremely essential to us both. So if somebody gives you the gift of time, like when my mother-in-law or when my sister-in-law picks up our kid, I make it a point to make sure that I'm very productive because, those minutes, I'm already working with fewer minutes than my colleagues in medical school. And so I really have to make sure that I am maximizing that time. And I would also point out, and one of the things that I've learned over the last 2.5 years is that it's great to have a village to help you, but it's also so important to just call them to say hi, or to just go get coffee with them, or to just like text them and say, how are you doing? Because your soul matters. Like, I really think professional and graduate school is like the soul-sucking experience that only people who are in professional and graduate school can understand. And so sometimes talking to people outside of that, or even within that, just about life, can be really helpful and really restorative, I think, to your spirit. So it's really important to just call people just to say hi. Also, people die. Like, I learned that firsthand as well. So call your mother. Like, you might feel really busy and you might feel like you don't have time, but it's so important to call people. So important. So the next lesson I want to talk about is that empty cups don't pour. So you cannot take care of others if you do not take care of you.
Brittany,
Yep.
can we answer a couple questions real quick?
We sure can.
First one is, before you get into your next lesson, is from Mahalia. She asks, did you suffer from any side effects from the antidepressant drugs?
So, good question. Being in medical school, I knew a little bit about antidepressants, and so I went in with a plan. I went in knowing what I wanted to take. Like, for example, SSRIs, which is usually a common starting point when people get on medications, they have side effects like weight gain and lack of sex drive. I wasn't willing to go through either one of those, and so those were like completely off of my list. And so I went in and I knew what my option was. It's called Wellbutrin, or the generic name is bupropion. I knew I wanted to start there. If it didn't work, then we could have adjusted it. So I would say it's really important to do your research. But also, your psychiatrist, if they suggest something and you go home and you research it, they can't force you to take anything. And if they try, you should get a new psychiatrist. You should really I think informed patients make for the best patients. So I didn't personally have any side effects, but it was because I went in with a plan.
Right. Sounds like you were well informed, which is definitely nice.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next one is from Amira. She asks, therapy is amazing, and thank you for being so transparent. Was your med school scholarship based on performance in undergrad, or your post-bac, or elsewhere?
So my scholarship was a merit scholarship based on, I don't necessarily know if it was undergrad or the post-bac. It was just a merit scholarship based on things that I had done before medical school. It was actually really random. So ironically, I'll tell the story about that. So we had just left the doctor's appointment where they told my mom that her prognosis was terminal, and we got a random phone call from Wayne State pretty much telling me they were going to give me a full tuition scholarship. It was really amazing. But I still don't know where it came from. I have no idea. I don't know. But it was merit-based. It's merit-based. So.
Perfect. Thank you. Those are the two questions we got so far. And you all keep them coming. I'm looking at the questions. And let's get into this picture. I'm excited. All right.
Yes, this is a picture of me working out. So before I started medical school, I used to be like a super gym buff, like 6 days a week, sometimes 7 if I felt like I didn't need a rest day. But now that I'm in medical school, I just make a point and a promise to myself to work out 3 times a week. And so that means when I take the early shift, sometimes that means I don't go study. Sometimes that means I go to the gym and I work out. And it's really helpful for me. I think it helps me, one, I feel good. I feel good that I look good. But 2, it honestly, I think, prevents me from probably going off on either my child or my attendings in the hospital or my husband. And so I think it's very, very important. And so I have here that I don't necessarily have the time, but I make the time. So the way I started to look at it was, if I spend 3 hours a week in the gym and looking at my grades, even if that equated to, a percentage point per hour on the test, would that make that big of a difference to where I was willing to hop on a faster lane to not being well if I didn't go to the gym? And so the answer for me was no. That wasn't a trade-off I was willing to make. So if it made the difference between an 87% and a 90%, I was just going to get an 87%. And in my mind, that was okay. That was a trade-off I was willing to make. I drink a lot of water a day. I meal prep weekly. And there's a caveat to this. This is kind of a lie. We try to meal prep weekly. If there's any part of our lives, between me and my husband that we are not the best at, it's probably meal prepping. And I think at this point, it used to be a lot easier before we had a kid, but he's such a picky eater. And I always told myself before I had kids, like, you run your house, right? Like a 3-year-old is not going to tell you what he wants to eat. He's going to eat what I tell him to eat. That's a lie. Like, no, he like kind of dictates what we eat. And so it's hard to find things weekly that, we don't get tired of, or we fail at this a lot, but we're working on this. Again, give yourself permission to be human. One of my non-negotiables, though, is I sleep 6 hours a day. So if I know that I have to be up at 4 a.m., I'm in bed by 10. Like, there is no, I'm not negotiating. I'm not negotiating with my husband about who's giving the kid a bath. I'm going to bed at 10. Otherwise, people don't survive. And I think it's important for everybody around me that I get 6 hours a day of sleep. So you have to know what works for you, and you have to really be in tune with your body. And I think that's so important for wellness. So some tips for engaging in physical activity. Start getting up early. I know that's a hard one for people who aren't morning people, but it is useful for me. Use university resources. So if you don't want to pay for a gym membership, most schools have a student center with a gym. I go to Wayne States often. Planet Fitness is an affordable option. It's also 24 hours. So for those mornings that I do have to go work out at 4:30 a.m., that's where I go. Find a personal trainer if you don't know how to work out. There's also an awesome app called Trainerize. So you can download it right to your phone, and you can find a personal trainer that will literally, there are videos, they show you how to do the workout. Sometimes you can do live workouts, like you can even do workout summits like the one that we're in now via Trainerize. So that's a really awesome app. I think group classes are super important. I think group classes with people outside of graduate and professional school are also really important. That is probably one of the only places where I think I can go and talk to people and we're not like discussing heart failure and kidneys or like potty training. So it's nice to have something outside of those two areas of my life. Also set realistic goals. So like before I was in med school, like I said, I was in the gym 6 days a week. And now that's just not realistic. I can do 3 and I'm okay with that. And have your non-negotiables, which for me is sleep and coffee. My next lesson is to have an attitude of gratitude. And I say this because, you know, my mother deteriorated really quickly. This is somebody who was okay on her 49th birthday and did not make it to her 51st. And so I personally have learned how to, excuse me, give thanks for things that I can do, right? I can put my own shoes on. I can go to the bathroom without assistance. I can walk. And so it's really helped me change my mindset to not complain about things. So you'll never hear me say, I got to go work out, right? You will always hear me say, I get to go work out. This is something I get to do. This is honestly an honor and a privilege because there are so many people who either never had the functions or who have lost the functions. And it really is a privilege to be able to do those things. I also keep in mind that I chose these things. So, excuse me. So nobody forced me to become a mother, though. I think our political climate today, that might change, but nobody forced me to do that. Nobody forced me to go to med school. Nobody forced me to marry my husband. So I'm not going to complain about these things because I chose all of these things. And that mindset change, which is pretty new. That was probably like a year and a half ago. I was talking to a friend and we were like, okay, we're going to try this. We're going to try this for 60 days. We're not going to complain about the things that we asked for. And it just made life so much easier. You just feel lighter. And so I also give myself credit for the fact that the things that I'm doing are really hard. Like, it is not easy to be a med student by itself, let alone be grieving a mother or raising a toddler or married to a law student who also works full time. Those things are not easy, but like these are decisions that I've made. And so making peace with that and finding things to give thanks for really helps. So some tips for creating a better attitude. Reading self-help books. I know in professional school and grad school it's so hard to read things outside of your required curriculum. So I just read 3 pages a day. And you'll be surprised how many books you get through just doing that. And so these are 2 books that I really like. I think they were very helpful for me. I also wake up every morning with some mornings I don't see my son, but every morning I wake up and I write 3 things down that I'm thankful for. And I also have him look in the mirror and say 3 things that he's thankful for. We look at our vision boards. So if you haven't created one, I would definitely recommend, Googling or like looking at Pinterest and seeing some ideas for some vision boards. I think it's so important to remember that where you are now is not where you want to be or aspire to be. And so trying to, make sure that you keep that long-term vision in your mind for this very, very long road that is grad school and professional school, I think is super important. And again, just tying my other lessons in, staying physically active, finding a therapist, getting the medications you need. Those things are all very important to maintaining a good attitude. I'm like, seriously, I have a cold and I'm trying to work through it. So my next lesson is to give yourself permission to be human. So just in, being honest and being vulnerable, I cry a lot, which is so funny to say out loud because like 2.5 years ago, I would have never said that. I was one of those people, I never cried in front of people. I did not express emotion. I had a real superwoman complex. And now I just be like, you know what? That Lincoln commercial where Matthew McConaughey like says something really profound, tears, like just tears. And I'm okay with that at this point in my life. I cry a lot. I don't box in my emotions. I ask for space a lot. And a lot of times what that means is not comparing my life to that of my friends or people I knew before I started med school who are not in med school. Nothing will make you more miserable than the friends who decide to go to Africa on Thursday, on Tuesday. And I can't, right? Like I'm in medical school. I have a husband. I have a child. I can't do those. And so sometimes I have to just stop comparing what I can do and my capabilities for my day-to-day life to theirs. And sometimes that means getting off social media. And that's so important for me, for my mental health, is just logging off sometimes. I don't force productivity. So if I need a break, I take one. So sometimes what that means, again, and this is within reason, right? Like if you have something due in 2 days, you can't take a 48-hour break. Like that's not a real thing. But, sometimes I'll just take 10 minutes. I have a bike next to my TV, and my bike saves me a lot. So I'll just get on and just ride a bike for 10 minutes. Sometimes I'll go spend time with my kid and just debate him about something that probably is, not important, but I just like to go back and forth with him. It's fun. But breaks are important. And then be honest about your experience. So I think for me, this is kind of a bonus lesson. But when you're honest about your experiences and how they have shaped you, it will inform your gift, right? So there are now things that I know about myself through all of this, through losing my mother, through becoming a mother, through being in medical school, through getting married, through helping my husband through professional school, which law school is also its own beast in its own self. There are now gifts that I can give that only I can give. And so when I'm honest with myself about, how hard my experience has been, but also how awesome it is that I made it through it, now I'm able to talk about those things and I'm able to give those things. And so one example of this is the business that my husband and I have started. It was inspired because when my mom died, I never took for granted the fact that all I had to do was be a grieving daughter. I didn't have to worry about where the money for her funeral was going to come from. I owned my home. She left me a car that was paid off. She left me some money. She left my kids some money. And I never took those things for granted because I know that's not the case for everybody. And so I felt responsible, one, to make sure that my children are even better off than I was, but also to make sure that nobody else's gift dies early from preventable causes, right? So we wanted to make sure that we were inspiring health habits and wealth habits and financial habits that will really make sure that we're building sustainable legacies so that we are not leaving behind, more stress. And so what that started with was this apparel line where we make inspirational clothing that, kind of guides people building their legacies. But the next phase is that we're building out. Right now, we are piloting a curriculum teaching high school students financial literacy. It's called For My Kids Money Academy. So we'll be bringing that to a few high schools this coming school year. And then as soon as we obtain these professional degrees, we will be working on our what are called PLLCs. So mine will be a virtual health enterprise where I want to be able to provide mental health services as well as physical activity services via a smartphone. Like I don't particularly like for professionals like us who are busy with school or with work, who don't necessarily have a lot of time to call their doctor or get a trainer. I want to help eliminate those excuses and those barriers. And I want to make sure that people have access to those services. And then my husband wants to start law services to help professionals start their own businesses, their own side hustles, but also make sure that their wills are in order and that the people that they're leaving behind won't struggle at all. And so those are kind of our next steps for our business. And this is how I can be reached. So this is our business Instagram as well as our email. Please feel free to email me about fitness tips or mental health resources, or even just to talk, have a conversation. And that is our website, www.formykidskids.com. If you want to be a part of this first phase of our business and purchase some legacy building apparel. So I don't know if that was 30 minutes. I've never really been good with time. Like, it just takes me the time that it takes to tell my story. So I don't know, Alante, if...
Yeah, no, your timing was literally perfect. It's 6:31. So you did a great job on timing. Brittany, thank you so much. Yeah, take a swig, get some water.
Trying to work through this cold.
Yeah, no, I mean, one, the commitment, y'all. She's in med school, got a baby on the way, husband, business, got a cold, and still is giving us this info. So quiet. Say it again.
I sent them to the gym, so that's why it's so quiet.
You're so funny. But thank you so much for like this really great information. I think you really set the tone about us thinking kind of overall how we can approach graduate school and professional school and really getting our mentality right. And I think you really put some things into perspective for us as well. Just thinking about like the fact that I really love, like, I get to go work out. I needed that. Okay. I don't know if anybody else needed it. I needed it. I get to work out. That it really is a shift in your perspective. And I get to do this work is a shift in the perspective as well. So we're going to shift gears for like 2 seconds. I'm going to give everyone time to start thinking of questions. If you want to drop them in the chat right now, feel free to do so. I'll be reading them from the chat. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. While we're doing that, Brittany, I'm going to switch over to I think you can stop sharing.
Okay.
Actually, no, it should be okay. I'm going to share my screen with y'all.
Did that stop?
Yeah, it did. All right. Okay. I'm not sharing with you all just yet. Hold on. All right. This is desktop 1. All right. So we also have all Brittany's information. Can you see my screen?
We can.
Okay, cool. All right, so it is time for the giveaway. Got my Beyonce meme, which I'm hoping it'll show. I feel like I have a lot of things open right now that are in the way. So it is time for the giveaway. All right, so what is this giveaway that I'm talking about that I'm so excited about, that I want you all to know about? Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I have all the issues. So it is a 90-minute goal setting and planning session with me. I've spent the last semester or two talking with graduate students, helping them create a plan to get their spring semester together. And so I'll be doing the same thing this summer. So if you have any kind of goals that you've been thinking about getting done, but maybe you're a little fuzzy about the details, maybe the week-by-week action plan, how you can take action towards getting that goal accomplished, I am here to help you. And in the 90 minutes, we will talk about your goals. We'll figure out like your top 3 goals. Then we'll go over a week-by-week plan, creating a strategy and action steps to accomplishing 3 of your goals. And I really try to make sure that we have a personal goal in there. So if it is maybe this summer, the weather's nice, it's a great time to start a workout practice or regimen, or writing, or beefing up on your research skills, whatever it is, I'm here to support and help you kind of figure those things out. And a lot of times in my sessions, I'm also helping identify resources. So I'll shoot you an email with whatever kind of your unique questions or support or help that you need. I send those things to you. And so that's what I'm going to be giving away during the rest of the sessions. And this is all a part of the Scholar Circle, which is a pre-dissertation support system that I have for current graduate students. So if you're about to head to graduate school, this is perfect for you. I just finished the beta group for this program, and so I have some reviews coming out soon. But it includes for the summer a live training session. Like last semester, we did Learn LaTeX, which is a typesetting program. And then we also just completed a networking, tracking, and cultivating relationship email template tutorial that I did for the spring semester students who are in the program. I also have exclusive content that is for the Scholar Circle. So you'll have access to those tutorials I just told you about, in addition to what I'll be doing over the summer. For new people who don't know, I do have a podcast called Black in Grad School. And if you're a part of the Scholar Circle, I actually released the podcast early to you, so you can listen to it before anyone else has access to it. And we also have weekly co-working sessions. So Brittany was talking about how important it is to kind of have a schedule, and the co-working sessions happen in the middle of the week that help you kind of keep on track with whatever your goals are, be it what we plan during our action planning session or whatever goals you have for your week that you develop through when you're kind of organizing yourself for the week. So I have picked a random number. Let me see. And that is how I'm going to determine the winner announcement. So I know we have 1 through 20. We have 21 people present during the session. All right. So the random number is 7. So let's see who the 7th person is on our Zoom call today. Let's stop the share. All right. All right, Crystalline, you have won the, you are the winner for the first session. I will send you a message. Let me take a quick note of your name, and I will send you an email with the information to get you started with the session. And if anyone else is interested, I'll be sharing more information throughout the sessions about the Scholar Circle, about these sessions. But with that, we're going to switch right on back into Q&A. And Brittany, actually, I have a question for you off rip, right? Because you were saying how important it is for us to kind of think about the fact that we asked for, this part of our journey. Like, we really wanted to be in grad school. Mm-hmm. But there are parts of grad school that we don't ask for, especially as women, people of color, if you're part of the LGBTQ community, you being a mother, being in professional school, where people maybe, I'll say, trying to thwart your efforts in some way, like just being negative, be it on the professional side or your personal side, like you're just doing too much, so you just like maybe not shoot so high. We don't ask for those things. So how do you kind of think through that when it happens to you?
I think for me, and again, I think my experiences, can you hear me? I know you can't see.
Yep, we can hear you clearly.
I think my experiences have kind of given me, for lack of a better way to word this well, like kind of an FU perspective for people. So I'm not there for them. Like for any of those aspects where people try to, again, I kind of talked about this with like that winner's mindset, right? So you have to know where you come in with your experiences and your gifts that only you can give the world. So of course, being a woman of color, being a mother, I can't relate, but I'm sure being, part of like the LGBT, like you mentioned, you face certain types of discrimination, of course, but I think at least for me, what I always keep in mind is, I'm not here for the people that can't relate to those experiences. I'm here so that it's easier for the next woman of color who is a mom, who did lose her mom, who, for that next person who has that experience, I'm here because there's no blueprint for us. If you think about it, a lot of us are first generation. If we aren't, our parents or whoever it is that we love that went before us, it was a very different time, a very different climate. And so, there's no blueprint. And I think things are a lot harder when there's no blueprint. And so I always remind myself that I'm here to be a blueprint so that my kids literally do not have to sit here and like talk about the crazy things that they heard that were said to them, right? I want that to be different. And so that remembering that for me, I've just kind of I take care of myself, right? But that is so that I can plant these seeds for this shade that I may not ever sit in, right? But like that's what I'm planting those trees. So I always try to remember that.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I love that. Yeah. I think I see some more questions. One's from Amira. She asks, "Oh, will the lesson slides be available after today?" They will be available after today. I'm gonna go through the entire summit, and then I'll upload all of the videos onto YouTube. And so they will be available, but not tomorrow. They'll be available near the end of the week, so we can just kind of get everything all cleaned up. And
yeah, I'll email them to you too, so that's easy.
Perfect. And so we'll have the actual slides available for you all. Let me see if I saw any other questions. So I know we talked about your balance as being a mom and being in med school, and even you told us a little bit about your plans afterwards. Mm-hmm. What have you found to be the most challenging part of med school, or as being a professional student, or something you see between you and your husband, since you're both professional students?
All of it.
Okay.
I think the hardest part for med school, so for me, I've always been a good student. I've always kind of had a 4.0. Things kind of just always clicked for me. And the sheer volume of information, honestly, like when I said in the beginning that it felt like assault, I'm not, like it literally felt like I was being attacked when I started medical school. And so I think the hardest part for me is just, again, making peace with sometimes my best is not the 100% outcome that I'm used to, or, that I used to get in undergrad, or, and that's still okay but like literally, it's like a constant redefining of my best. And so that is a struggle for me. I also having to keep in mind that I have fewer hours than my colleagues, right? I have, I don't know what it's like to study in a quiet room. Like there's always background noise, you know what I mean? So taking into account and having to just kind of relearn how to learn with a 3-year-old screaming in the background. At this point, honestly, he could break his leg and I probably wouldn't hear it because I've gotten so good at tuning him out. Please don't call CPS on me, but these are the realities of just the constant adjustment for me has been the hardest part. And then my husband, I don't, we actually talk about this a lot. I think the hardest part for him is just, he works full time too. And so, that struggle of pursuing your goals, but also having that role of taking care of a family because we've started one. And so just the constant that balance that everybody swears they have, but really doesn't exist, work life, it's not a real thing. So that's the hardest part, I think, is just the constant redefinition of what is success looking like for us right now.
But it sounds like you all are flexible and you're showing that it can be done.
You have to be. You really just have to be. Also, one thing I really want to emphasize, if y'all don't get anything else, from what I said, is that, you're, this, it's also very fleeting. This could be over tomorrow. You could get news tomorrow and, be dead in 6 months. People get killed walking their dogs every single day. So you just really, some of the stuff we stress about really is not important. It's really not. I mean, it sounds important today, but it doesn't change anything about, long-term outcomes. If you fail a test, if you fail a paper, you don't want to fail, obviously, but it's literally not the end of the world. It's not going to be the end of your professional career. And so just keeping that in mind and just, again, finding things to be thankful for when things don't necessarily go the way that you thought they would is so important, because all this stuff it's so fleeting. It really is. It's so fleeting. Yeah, and I remember one thing my mom said, I swear, this is one of the last things she told me, when, I asked her, what would you want your younger self to know? And she literally, this was what she told me. She was literally when you are on your deathbed, you will realize that this life was not about you. And so just always remembering, again, that there are people who are coming after us. And so all of these struggles, all these things that we're learning, it really is, for the people who are coming after us, so that they don't have to have, these same struggles or these same questions or the imposter syndrome. There should be enough of us in the room when we're all done, right, where they feel like they belong. So it's really important.
Yes, I love it. Okay, you have one more question that I really love. It's so sweet. What's the first thing that you and your husband plan to do after completing your respective programs? And do you guys celebrate the small wins throughout?
So my husband and I are really good. We have a date night. It's non-negotiable. Every Thursday we date. sometimes date night looks like, and it cannot be like about school or business. That's our caveat. So like we have other meetings throughout the week. Like we have a business meeting every week. You know, we have a study date every week. But like date night is literally like, sometimes we literally go get French fries and Frosty from Wendy's and sit in the car and talk for 20 minutes, and then we go back, you know, to doing whatever it is that we're doing. And so that's something that helps us keep perspective. And so I think we celebrate the small wins throughout, and that we, you know, at least for 20 minutes a week, I'm able to catch up on like, what is he working on? What is he doing? And so like, I know for me personally, he really helps me remember that I'm doing a good job, because I don't know any other women, at least in my class, who are like married, have a kid, have been dealing with it. And so he's very good at like reminding me that, like, you know, from day to day, I don't know what you did today, Britt, but like whatever you did, you made it through today. And that shit is awesome. And he's really good at telling me that. And I think I do the same for him. I think the first thing we plan to do when we finish, we actually are supposed to be set to graduate at the same time. So it's actually going to be really fun. But we just want to take a trip without the kids. Like, I know that sounds bad, but just leave them with grandma and go somewhere. Even if somewhere is downtown to get a hotel. Like, I don't know where that is, but I just don't want to look at my kid for like a weekend. I know that sounds bad, but it's true.
No, it's honest, and I love it. And we have another question. Do you find it extremely challenging maintaining your relationship, friendship while being a student? You mentioned asking for space. Ooh. Is it difficult explaining your schedule or needs with loved ones who aren't also in school?
Write this down. This is a Brittany Stallworth-Jackson original, okay? This is my favorite quote. It is something that I have had to tell myself every single day for a long time, right? Forward motion in opposite directions is not the same thing as bad blood. My growth does not warrant an apology. So this is something, it can be challenging if you allow it to be challenging. So there are people who do not know this version of me, right? They don't understand necessarily the things that I've been through and how they've changed me. But I didn't go through all of these things. I didn't intentionally get the help that I got. I haven't worked this hard on myself and on my goals to stay the same. And so for the most part, I find that the people who are supposed to be in my life still are. And the ones who are upset, you know, they just aren't going to get it. And I think that's okay. I'm not mad at them for not getting it. Again, I also think things happen in time. So like there are people who didn't necessarily understand when I first became a parent, right? That like I can't do the things that I used to do. And since becoming parents, we've gotten a lot closer, right? Because now they have a kid and they're like, oh, you weren't acting funny. You just literally were too tired and had to feed a child from your body. Like, you know what I mean? So it's difficult, but my growth, I'm literally so unapologetic about my goals and my growth, because again, it's not for me. And when I leave this earth, I literally want my children and their children to be in a position of not stress. And so people who don't understand that just aren't part of my tribe. And you have to be honest about who's your tribe.
That's a great way to end.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wrote it down. My growth does not warrant an apology. And I put your whole name in it too. So,
it is original. Yes.
When you see it on IG, okay, with your name in the tag.
Yes.
So, Brittany, thank you so much for just sharing your story, and then just giving us encouragement, and also just being an example of how it can be done and that it can be done, and that it doesn't look perfect, but it's still beautiful. We appreciate it.
And I appreciate you, Alante, for putting this together. I think, you know, at least for me, this is the first time outside of like writing an Instagram caption here or there that I've actually been able to like put my story together and tell it. It was very therapeutic. I appreciate you. And particularly, you know, I think this is mostly women of color, people of color. And so I really, you know, I appreciate that. So again, finding that tribe, right? I appreciate y'all. So thank you.
Yeah, so y'all keep in touch with Brittany. I will be sure to tag her if you follow me on Instagram. For my kids, we can follow. It's For My Kids, one word on Instagram, and so follow her. We have another session that starts at 8 p.m. I'll be talking about personal finances, how to make that graduate stipend stretch, because it's hard out here for a grad student. So thank y'all so much. I hope you have a great night. for the break, eat some food. I see a couple thank yous in the chat, Brittany, so check it out. It says, thank you for being transparent, honest with us. You're an inspiration and uplifting. Thank you. Very informative with practical tips. This was awesome. Thank you. So good. Thank you, Brittany. Asking about the slides. Going with the slides. I see some more thank yous. And I've been as a professional student. I was stuck on what people were saying instead of my goals. Please share this quote. We're going to share the quote, which is how I got you. Michael says thank you. Amira says thank you. Tasia says thank you.
Awesome. Y'all very welcome. Thank y'all for listening. It was awesome.
All right. All right, y'all. See y'all at 8. Bye.